You know, before the break, Sharon, we talked about the fact that EOTC is a unique organization. You're not part of a national program. You're not run by any state agencies or state organizations. It began here in Scranton.
It did.
It's flourished here in Scranton.
It has.
And the Acorn.
And the acorn, yes, the acorn really has become our symbol. And it was, in the beginning, it was a way for me to give something to the very first class, employment readiness training class that I taught for the Women's Employment Program, which was really the seminal program for EOTC. And I wanted to give something to the women who were in that first class. And I thought, what could it be? What could I give them? And I was sitting at Naog Park under an oak tree with my dog, and I was aware of all of these acorns, and it just struck me that it is such a symbol of growth and a symbol of potential. And I thought, well, I will give an acorn to every single person who is graduating from this class that I was teaching, and they did graduate in March of 1986. And I gave them an acorn, and that has really stayed with us. And it became our symbol at the suggestion of one of the women who was in our class. One of the women said, well, why isn't it in your logo? And I said, you know, that's an excellent idea. It should be in our logo. And that's how it ended up there. And so I think the wonderful thing about that is that it really is true that there is that growth and that potential in every person. And I think the other part of it that's very true is that in order to do that rooting that it has to do to become that oak, that sturdy oak, it's got to take a fall. And it's got to land somewhere else. And I think that's what happens to a lot of us in life, is we take a fall and we land someplace. And really, it's an opportunity for us to put down roots and to really grow. And that has been our blessing as part of our nonprofit. But it's also what we've been able to do in our work with other people.
And you know, when you talk about an acorn, the dream and the thought of having a major headquarters over on 7th Avenue was really, it was an acorn. It was
it was, yeah.
It was an empty shell sitting over there that you had a dream for. And Ruth, you worked very closely with some great people, and I had the privilege. And why don't we just touch some of those names and what they've done?
Well, I think we had the leadership of our capital campaign was under Dave Hawk and Mary Reeland Rhodes, and their stick-to-itiveness and their passion for our work compelled me to do my job. And I found the people, I have a saying that I use with people is, those who are greatest donors are those who get it. Those who acknowledge that we all have troubles in our lives, and some of us are able to get up by ourselves or have our family, and then there are other people who can't. And both Dave and Mary get it, and then they spread it to other people. So they carried that passion for providing people with opportunities to improve their lives. People who've made mistakes and want to change the way they live. One of the neat things about 7th Avenue Center is that on the back part of our property, we have a beautiful green space, and there is a huge oak tree.
Oh,
beautiful oak tree, which we hopefully will have children playing under. We're going to have a garden out there and a walking area for our clients and our staff, and a picnic area so that people will be able to play under that oak tree.
You know, I see it probably more than most, but the difference between a person having financial security and a home over their head and being homeless is just the sleight of a hand.
It is. It is.
A serious illness, the death of a breadwinner, the loss of a job, some mental illness that creeps in that doesn't get treated, and all of a sudden a successful person finds themselves sleeping in the back seat of their car.
Well, I think that's an important point, Todd, because so often people think it is an us and them situation. It's that something like that couldn't ever possibly happen to someone like me or like that person. It only happens to those people. And that is just really incorrect. And I think that some of the things we have done over the years when we have worked with major corporations and with different manufacturers and people who have lost their jobs and never in a million years expected to be sitting at a job search group at EOTC in Scranton, Pennsylvania, or never in a million years thought that they would be facing their family and having to talk about not having a job or not having enough money or having to look for ways to get food. It's not something that only strikes certain parts of our society. And I think more than ever we are realizing that right now.
Well, I'll give you an example that nobody really ever thinks of. Wonderful opportunity being brought to the northern tier of the oil and gas drilling. But with it comes this horrible financial inequity where the workers that come in are making such high dollars that they think nothing of paying $2,000, $2,500 a month to rent a farmhouse that a family may have lived in and paid $600 a month for 20 years. That family finds themselves out in the cold. The people who own the farmhouse can't afford to say no to those kind of dollars. The people who live there can't find any place to stay. And that story is being repeated in Wyoming and Susquehanna and Bradford and Sullivan. All over the place.
There are so many families and so many, not just families, individuals as well, whose life just takes an unexpected turn. And that can be, as you mentioned, for any reason whatsoever. It can be a health reason, it can be loss of a job, it can be an accident that happens, as you well know. And what is so important in the work that we do is helping people to make choices that are their choices, that are choices that they want to make for themselves. We don't hand people a card that says, or a list that says, you've got to do this or you've got to do that. One of the things we've really done is say, everybody has strengths. And so to come from a strengths-based system, to say, in order to really to survive what you have survived, there's some resilience in there, there's some strengths, and our job is to help them to identify those strengths and to nurture them, and to say, you've gotten this far by some power within you, and so how can we build on that? So it really is a strengths-based system, and it's also a family system, because so often if an agency or a program singles out one individual in a family and points to that person as the problem, it's never just one person. It is always a family, and it's a family who together can make changes, but they need each other. And what we really do is look at, we are focused on our mission, we are committed to working with families as a whole and helping them to identify their strengths. And those three things, as Ruth was saying, what sets us apart from other organizations, it is really that belief that there really is greatness within them.
When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about those that may be watching this show saying, how do I avail myself of those services? Do I need somebody to introduce me to EOTC, or can I go knock on the door? So please stay tuned to You Be the Judge.